Welcome to the Town Council for a meeting for Monday, July the 27th, 2026. It's a regular meeting. I'd like to welcome everybody for being here. So now council will come to order, and are there any approval or approval to the agenda or adjustments to the agenda that need to be made? Seeing none, we'll...
Hold on one second.
Yes.
Phil?
Mayor, are we able to ask questions about items on the consent agenda?
That's a good question.
Probably should get it off the consent agenda if we're gonna discuss it, and just ask it
Yeah,
back to the.
no, I just had one question about the Buncombe Madison Regional Hazard Plan. But, so I would move that we could pull that off just for one question.
Okay. Is that, council good with that?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank
Yep.
you, thank you.
Okay, so it's the duty of the mayor and every town council member to avoid both conflicts of interest and appearance of conflicts. Does any member have any known conflict of interest or appearance of conflict with respect to any matters coming before town council tonight?
Nope.
Seeing none, we'll proceed. I'll turn things over to Town Manager Harris. Mo- Motion for the consent agenda.
No,
No,
No.
just for the approval of the
Approval-
agenda.
approval of
To
the
adopt
agenda with
as
that-
presented.
With that one change.
Yes, yes. I'll make that motion.
All in favor?
aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Mayor, Council, for your consent agenda, page 2, you've got the June 8th, 2026 Town Council Workshop Meeting Minutes. On page 6, you have the monthly tax report refunds. We're showing a 99.89% of the town's property taxes have been collected as of the end of June. So for a total of $4,846,660.26. On page 12, you have a budget amendment for the police department. A portion of each quarterly distribution the town receives from the ABC store must be allocated to alcohol education and law enforcement activities. For this quarter ending on June the 30th of 2026, the town received $2,415 for alcohol education, $1,725 for law enforcement. It's a part of the memorandum between Buncombe County Schools and the Weaverville Police Department, signed on January 28th of 2026. The town received an additional $36,666 in the June 26 as a reimbursement for the second half for our SRO duties provided by the Weaverville Police Department in fiscal year 25 and 26. On page 14, you have a budget amendment for the fire department. Last year, the fire department's engine, as you are aware, caught on fire. While responding to a call, was deemed a total loss. The town received insurance proceeds totaling $232,500 to be put towards the cost of the replacement engine. That engine will be ready for pickup soon. It has arrived at the Asheville shop and is having some equipment mounted on it. The total cost of that new engine is $1,054,994, which relieves a remaining balance of $822,494. A budget is needed to fund the amount from the fire's fund balance. When the second engine on order is ready in the fall, should arrive in the November timeframe. The town will be financing one or both and may choose to reimburse the fire department fund balance with the loan proceeds. On page 16, ADA transition plan. June 22nd of 2020, council adopted an ADA transition plan in order to ADA accessibility within its facilities, parks, and along our sidewalks. During fiscal year 26, several handicap spaces along Main Street were added, reconfigured for compliance. This includes 2 spaces in front of Town Hall that provides better access to Town Hall and the community room, 2 spaces in front of the Weaverville Public Library, and 4 spaces that are providing better access to the library as a result of a call expressing concerns about the adequacy of handicap parking near the county's library there on Main Street. The town did receive a couple of calls concerning private business who were both encouraged to review their accessibility to try to address their concerns there. For fiscal year 2026 to 27, we'll be working on improvements through the front doors of Town Hall and the community room to provide better ADA accessibility. The elevator that runs from the police department to the community room hallway has some costly repair issues that will need to be evaluated. Staff recommended provides town council. At present, the problem that we have in the downtown area is constituted use of tables, chairs, and signage, sometimes pets on the sidewalks that obstruct or free or clear the walkway on the sidewalks. Staff's been engaging with our downtown business to remind them of ADA requirements, keeping our sidewalks clear and accessible in that area. On 17, that has been pulled for your discussion, which will be the Buncombe Madison Regional Hazard Mitigation Plan. So moving to page 19 is amendment to the fee schedule. The town is migrating to a new software platform, facility rentals beginning August the 1st. Most deposits and rental fees are paid electronically. There are processing fees for those electronic payments need to be passed on to the renters. Proposed amendment would add a provision to section 6 of the fee schedule to acknowledge the processing fees, establish the current direct vendor fee of 3.25% plus 25 cents per transaction, and allow for automatic update of the fee schedule should changes be made to the fee schedules by the vendor. On page 21 is our water treatment plant resiliency project change order. TP Howard has been working at the treatment plant for resiliency projects that include the installation of the backup generator at our wall water intake and chlorine gas conversion. As this project is nearing completion, the contractor and engineers have established an updated substantial completion of September 11th, 2026. Change order number 5 adjusts that date and the final payment date, but does not change the contract price. 125 days have been added to the contract term to account for supply chain issues. On page 24, Dry Ridge Museum update, and Miss Judy is here in the audience if you have any further from her. But visitors are 344. The volunteer hours are 644. There was an evening event recognizing Rodney's Garage. Coffee Talks, Weaverville History from 1920 to 1985. Had 38 attendees. The George Washington presentation, 32. Historic Downtown Tour, 23 and 4 private tours. The museum tour, Lakeside Point Seniors, 30. Museum showcasing AB emblem, a new showcase, a Declaration of Independence, Native American pottery artifacts. Some new officers were elected in March of 26. Miss Judy Craigs is the chair, Patty Savage the co-chair, Louise Root secretary, and Margaret Brigham is the treasurer. And that concludes your consent agenda. And a motion to adopt as presented, Mr. Mayor and Council.
I make a motion to adopt as presented, removing item F.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, Council, moving into your town manager's report. The Music in the Park, the July 11th event was canceled due to weather, but the jazz band Chronological will be playing during one of the Music on the Knoll events in the fall and winter. The next Music in the Park is scheduled for August the 8th and will feature Chris Rosser. Our fire department has received an official rating from the Insurance Office of State Fire Marshal. Our rating remained the same, Class 2 inside the town limits, Class 3 in our North Buncombe district. And one of the differences in that is our water supply issue itself. But that's the same rating that they were previously. As mentioned, the new engine has arrived at the actual service shop for Atlantic, the Pierce manufacturer. Equipment is being mounted this time. It's my understanding that Chief Canifax and the department plans a wet down push-in ceremony when that engine does arrive at the station. So we'll keep you abreast of when that's occurring, and the community will be invited to attend that. Community conversations, we started about a year ago for those conversations with the manager. The next one will be taking place on August the 18th at 6 p.m. here in the community room at Town Hall. It gives the community an opportunity to come and ask those difficult questions and puts me in the hot seat giving them answers back. So that's been a good open dialogue discussion that we've had with that. I'm glad we're able to continue that. I just recently completed and the League of Municipalities Summer Finance Series. Completed that on June the 14th. There were 6 classes in that financing program. Conflict resolution training we offered as part of our progressive training for town staff members, council members. We've offered conflict resolution. Staff completed that the week of July the 13th. That was the 3rd series. We started out with DISC assessment training, followed that up with emotional intelligence training, and then this one just occurred last week. And our next session will be some team building activities with Rob Dibble working on that aspect as our instructor. The last round, we had approximately 35 members attend that training. For our FEMA update, all the FEMA submitted projects have now been obligated for funding. This is about to go away, thank goodness. We've got a meeting with the Recovery Transition Team. It's scheduled for July the 30th to review the projects, discuss grant requirements, and work on the transition from FEMA switching over to North Carolina Emergency Management. We're close to being ready to close out the grant project ordinance that was adopted for the FEMA monies. Our Human Resources Director position update, we had over 20 applicants for our HR Director position. There were many qualified applicants. We narrowed it first round to 5 applicants, and from there we narrowed it down to 3, and we conducted, we brought in some outside assessors for that process and conducted that. Last round of interviews on July the 24th, and we're working with a candidate at this point in time for background checks and following up on their references. So hope to be able to have an announcement out on that position soon. Congressman Edwards visited us at the water treatment plant, met with staff out there on Friday, the 24th, and we were able to show him the facility and the work in progress. Talked to him about some upcoming expansion projects and other town needs. And he was very receptive to some information that we provided on that. Speaking and teaching engagements, July 28th, tomorrow evening, I'll be speaking at the WBA meeting, the 19th. Speaking at the AB Tech Ferguson Auditorium for Advent Health for their Weaverville campus certificate of needs for the additional 92 beds that they have requested. Tree Board, they're doing a tree giveaway. They've been providing trees to the community for free. They've been doing that at the last 2 tailgate markets that occur on Wednesday. They will be there until they run out of trees. For upcoming meeting and events, the Planning Board meeting August the 3rd at 4 p.m. August the 8th is Music in the Nature Park at 6 p.m. August the 10th, County Council regularly scheduled workshop at 6 p.m. here. August the 18th, Community Conversations with the Manager, 6 p.m. here in the council chambers. August 24th is your next regularly scheduled council meeting at 6 p.m. From Public Works, and we'll get this posted and pushed out as well. But the playground at Lake Louise will be closed temporarily beginning August the 17th for approximately 2 weeks for installation of playground surface and repairs. Signage will be posted there due to operation of the heavy equipment. The public is encouraged not to cross the caution tape or the barriers for their safety. As a reminder, we have some potential severe weather coming in tomorrow. I'll get the latest round of briefing from the National Weather Service at 5 a.m. in the morning. We will push that out on our webpage and social media. Again, just ask that the public be aware of their surroundings tomorrow for the potential of severe weather coming in tomorrow. And that concludes the manager's report, sir.
Thank you for your report, Mr. Town Manager.
Mr. Mayor, just so we don't get past it accidentally, I think it'd be appropriate before you move on the agenda to address Councilmember Barnett's question about the hazard mitigation plan. Go ahead and take action on that before you move further into the agenda.
Sounds like a
Okay. The surprise behind the link embedded in the agenda is a 637-page plan, which I confess I didn't get all the way through. I think it's extremely well done, but quick question, do we, in town roles understand what the impact of the plan is gonna be, both from a budget standpoint, and also are there any effects of the plan that you see that might impact our zoning?
Now, we've had several meetings leading up to this, as well as this plan in place previously. And one of the things that did help with being part of this regional mitigation plan is the trees down and different things that we were able to, when we met with Forestry Service, I mean, they were able to see that we had a regional mitigation. And so obviously, anytime you're dealing with government, they like the regionalization aspect of things.
Yeah.
So that did come into play on parts of our conversation with the Forestry Service when we were looking at what plans are already in place from a regional standpoint. Obviously, as you're aware, we had some significant damage here up on the Ella Cove area, the old watershed, but further out in Madison County in different areas, they had a lot more damage than we did. So that regionalization aspect helped a lot of areas when we were dealing with the Forestry Service
So-
for mitigation.
No, that's, Scotty, that's great. And so if we adopt this plan, we're not really seeing any budget impacts on the horizon that are sort of embedded in that agreement, correct?
No, sir, there's no, that we're aware of any hidden fine print underlying obligation for financial contributions beyond what we already do in that aspect.
Okay, super, I'm good,
The
thank
town
you.
of Woodfin had some similar concerns about, they were more concerned whether it would be prescriptive about any further action they might want to take in terms of their own ordinances for both, zoning or otherwise, or plans you might make for hazard mitigation as your own authority, which you are. So it's not prescriptive in that way, but I do think you should have a pop quiz next meeting about all 600. Everybody.
No, it's an amazing data-rich study. I was, all of the images in there are just really educational, but, it's hard to rush through and decide, is it really going to, impact, our finances.
I noted 21 hailstorms in Weaverville and 1 in Woodfin, so somehow or another they stopped.
No, thank you, Scotty.
Yes, sir.
I make a motion we adopt the resolution for the Buncombe Madison Regional Hazardous Mitigation Plan.
We have a motion to adopt this plan. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
Mayor, Council, I've got your public comment section here if you're ready to move to that section. I'll call our first signee. Laura Chase has signed up as our first guest at the podium.
I once appreciated the fireworks in Weaverville, but I do not anymore. And I want to explain why. I know it's something that's been discussed and people are really, they feel like they just don't want to leave the fireworks behind. It's such a Weaverville thing that people love. But as a neighbor who lives near the fireworks, we've experienced just a lot of challenges. We have a dog who's deathly afraid of the fireworks. I'm sure you've probably all read about how animals are afraid. We have a dog who is petrified. I mean, her heart beats so fast, I think she's not gonna live, and so we just leave town. So 4th of July, if we can, we pick up our animals and we leave. And it's an expense to us to sometimes get a place to stay, travel expense, food, but we must leave on behalf of our dog. But not only that, we feel like we have to have a house sitter because there is a real fire risk, and I'm sure you're aware of that. This year, a neighbor had a fire in her yard, and I'm sure you're probably also all aware that a hole was burned in the roof of the gymnasium at the school, and it went undiscovered, and then rain came through the school roof, and they found out, I believe a week later. So, we have 3 wooden structures, a garage and 2 houses, and so we feel like we can't leave our house unattended. And even then, there are questions about, would you detect a fire on your roof immediately? We have solar panels, we have cars. It's, you know, for anybody who lives around, it's a danger, depending on how the wind blows. But for some reason, I don't know how it's set up because we're not here for it, but the fallout seems to come our way. I know one of our neighbors has bought some fallout. I don't know if any of you have seen the fallout, but it's a big chunk of concrete looking stuff. It's like, and it contains toxic materials. So I want you to look at that when she's up here and see what that looks like, and imagine that falling on your solar panels, if you know, or on your head. It's stressful for many families who live nearby, for animals. It's a life, health, and safety issue, and there are environmental concerns. And in addition to the fire danger stress, you know, there's that stress about the animals and the chemicals in our home environment with our organic garden outside. I hope that neighbors and council members who appreciate the fireworks will see the prospects of them not staying, think of that more holistically and what is all involved, and think about the potential liability to the town now that we're all aware that, you know, real danger can and has occurred with the fireworks. Thank you so much for hearing me, and I'm happy to answer questions about our experience anytime.
Can I, if you don't mind, what's your address, if you don't mind sharing it?
It's 20 Brown Street.
Okay, thank you.
So we're one block down from the school.
Thank you.
Yeah, and also 18 Brown Street. Yeah,
Thank you.
my bad.
Next up is Mr. Brent Coning.
Yeah, my name is Brent Koenig, and I live on Coleman Street, just off of North Main Street. I've been a resident for 5 years and have been involved with the active Weaverville Committee since 2024. I'm now the chair of that committee, and I'm lucky to have former council member Jeff McKenna as vice chair. We've recently restructured the committee around 4 focus areas: pedestrian and biking access and safety, parks and recreational programs, policy and education, regional coordination, and outreach. These 4 focus areas will be led by our active members, who range from parents with young kids to active retirees, and who possess strong backgrounds in transportation, municipal engineering, local government, regional planning, and land development. My hope is that the active Weaverville Committee can work closely with all council members and staff going forward on related matters. I'd like to thank Councilmember Endries for bringing bike safety and Lenny's Law to everyone's attention tonight. Lenny and Jacob went out for a bike ride not too far from here for some exercise and fun, and they never made it home. Most people don't think about the possibility of that happening to themselves or loved ones, but it does happen regularly across the country, and it could easily happen to someone in Weaverville, based on what I've seen and experienced personally in the last 5 years. 6 years ago on Father's Day, our daughter turned 2 months old while we lived in San Diego. We were hunkered down in the early days of COVID, and none of our parents were able to fly across the country to visit. Mid-morning, my wife got a phone call from her dad, but it wasn't his voice on the line. A family friend told my wife that her mom was instantly killed riding her bike around 9 a.m. that morning. On a clear and sunny Sunday, not much traffic, in an area she was familiar with and had lots of signage for pedestrians and bikers in a 35-mile-per-hour zone. It didn't make sense. What also didn't make sense is that the driver that hit her was not tested for alcohol or drugs. Their cell phone was not checked for illegal use while driving. A key witness wouldn't talk to detectives that had follow-up questions, and nothing happened to the driver. The driver walked away scot-free, and we never got to see the joy of my mother-in-law holding her granddaughter. Never in a million years could I have imagined losing a single loved one or friend this way, but then a year ago, a good friend lost his wife while she was riding her bike one morning, leaving 2 kids motherless. I tell you this because I don't want anyone in this town to experience that type of loss. I know there is more this town can do to help reduce the chances of it happening, and I look forward to working with the town to figure out how to do it. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Next up is Ms. Caroline Colburn.
Hey everyone, I'm Caroline Colburn, and this is my family, Parrish and Grady, and we live at 12 Park Street, which is directly across from here. We're the house that's right behind Weaverville Primary. So I'm the other person that's here to talk about the fireworks. So I'm speaking on behalf too of a lot of our neighbors back here and friends from Weaverville. And we have several concerns, and a lot of them Laura already went over, but I'm just gonna touch on the main ones. So safety was the first one. The fireworks are just too close to our children, our pets, and our homes, and the school. The debris that falls from the sky, I don't know if you guys have seen it. Grady has some smaller examples. You wanna go show them? But it's rocks basically that are falling from the sky, coming at our houses and at our kids out in the yard. We also have concerns, like Laura said, over the fire hazard that it creates. I read an article that this year in North Carolina, fireworks caused $4.3 million in damage just over the 4th of July weekend. Last year, we had friends over and a friend had to stomp out a fire in our yard. We're hesitant to leave town on the 4th of July because our house is pretty much it's in line with the fireworks, and it feels like things are just coming towards our house, and it doesn't feel like we can leave our house for the weekend. And like Laura said, the ember burned through the protective barrier that they put on the schools this year. The noise, it can be traumatic for pets, veterans, and folks with sensory, cognitive, and psychological issues. And then the debris and litter that it produces. I see I'm running out of time, so I'm gonna speed up some. But basically, we had a new puppy, and our puppy was eating the debris, so we couldn't let the dog out until all the debris was cleaned up. And it is a lot. It is like littered all over our street. It's all over everything, the debris. It's paper, and it's these rocks. So I have several solutions that I thought of. One was a drone show, and I've heard several other people in the communities, talk about these too. But the other is that they moved Lake Julian fireworks to the North Buncombe Field. So I was thinking we could combine our taxpayer dollars and have it out there where it's not so densely populated with houses and people, and maybe even still have the festival down here and bus people back and forth. And I know I'm out of time, but that was the best idea that I thought of.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Mayor and council, we did receive one email for public comments, and it was in support of the Lenny's Law that you're going to be talking about in your open discussion tonight.
Okay, thank you so much. So I think we're down to the discussion and action items at this point. So Councilman Indries, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mayor Lawrence, council. I was made aware of Lenny's Law through my role with the French Broad Municipal Planning Organization. It came up in there, and we're going to be voting on that come this August. And so I thought it'd be prudent for me to get information on the town of Weaverville stance, and I thought we should maybe even also support the law through a resolution, which is what I'm asking you here today. To start the discussion and introduce what Lenny's Law is, Adam Smith and Maddie Barondreau are here. They're both involved with the creation of Lenny's Law, so if you guys would like to say some words.
My name is Maddie Barondo. I'm a resident of Asheville, and I work in Henderson County. Before Adam discusses the details of this proposal, I'd like to share my story regarding the crash on NC 251 on July 1st, 2025, that killed Lenny Antonelli, Jake Hill, and injured Griffin Tishner. On Sunday, June 29th, my boyfriend, Lenny Antonelli, took me to a jeweler to pick out an engagement ring. Afterwards, we went to a brewery to finalize our schedule for moving in together a few days later on July 4th. We called his parents, and they were so excited to hear we were looking at rings. Lenny told me he planned to ask my dad for his blessing at the cycling races in Indianapolis later in July. But instead, 2 days later, on July 1st, I called Lenny's parents, this time to tell them Lenny was hit and killed by the driver of a dump truck on NC 251. They were riding on the regular Tuesday night group ride that has been going on since the 80s. His life ended when we were supposed to be at the start of the rest of our lives together. I wear that ring. And instead of planning a wedding this summer, I planned a memorial ride on July 1st. In my grief, I am advocating for changes to ensure that no one else has to experience what I am going through. I am grateful for the speed limit reduction and the increased signage for bicycle activity on NC 251. Additionally, the state has passed in a transportation law on December 1st, all gravel roads and roads that do not have a center line, the maximum speed limit is 25. So the state also supports speed reductions. I will continue to fight for changes, improvements to all vulnerable road users. In addition to speeding reductions, I'm working with an organization called the White Line, and we're advocating for a lot of changes at the state. One of them being something similar for a mandatory drug test after all crashes. Some of you may be aware, the driver that killed Lenny and Jake, he was on meth. Because there was a delay in the drug test, he was sentenced to 5 years of probation. And in the 10 months between the crash and the sentencing, he was driving, and he was driving a commercial vehicle. So frankly, we're lucky that no one else was killed. So I'd like everyone in this room to reflect on what actions they can take to improve road safety. You have a lot more power than I do, and I really appreciate that, and I hope you can all reflect on that. And I believe supporting bicycle safety zones is a simple step toward improving road safety. So thank you, and I'll pass it off to Adam.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, good evening, everyone. Mayor, members of Town Council, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to speak with you tonight. I'm Adam Smith, and I'm the chair of the Woodfin Parks and Community Enrichment Committee. I'm also born and raised in Asheville, and my mom's family has been in the area since the 1700s, so it's an honor to be with you tonight, so thank you so much. So obviously, this is a deeply personal issue for us and for our community as well, but it is also a fundamentally practical thing that we're bringing to you, to Weaverville tonight. On July 1st, 2025, Lenny and Jacob were tragically killed, as you've heard many times. And Griffin, who's been working with us, by the grace of God, he escaped. It wasn't just an isolated loss. It shook the entire regional, outdoor, and local community. It was a huge tragedy. And Lenny was truly a fine young man that I actually happen to know through my business connections at Liberty Bikes. So during our next PACE meeting, we were discussing ideas, anything we could do to make our local roads safer, and I came up with the idea for bicycle safety zones based on the concept of school zones and construction zones, which I'll discuss a little bit later. But shortly after that, 2 weeks later, I was at an event that my company was hosting, and I was discussing this idea with someone, and I said, I've just had this idea, and I'm going to call it Lenny's Law in honor of Lenny. And Maddie looked at me, and she said, Lenny was my fiance. So it was this serendipitous moment that we had together, and I personally believe there was a higher power at work that put us together. So we're humbled and honored to be with you tonight. So I know that this is a major hot button topic in our community right now, cyclists on the roads, but I am speaking to you as a lifelong mountain biker and a car enthusiast as well. So I see and I respect both sides of the windshield, as it were. I really understand this from everybody's perspective. But that's why Lenny's Law is explicitly designed as a common sense solution, and it is not an anti-driver regulation. So how does it work? It's just like a school zone or a construction zone, where there's a posted sign that might say, bicycle safety zone, increased fine for speeding next 5 miles, or next 1 mile, next half a mile, for example. In this zone, there's signage that warns motorists of increased fines for speeding within that zone. That's it. There'd be a small, reasonable penalty for standard drivers like ourselves, and there'd be larger penalties for CDL drivers, and that's very crucial. If you've ever driven down Riverside Drive, it is terrifying to see the dump trucks speeding at 60 miles an hour down that road. We really need to slow them down. So the main purpose is to create awareness and speed management within the general population, and it does align with ongoing North Carolina statewide initiatives to reduce speeding for all road users. So, of course, we know Weaverville cannot pass and unilaterally pass Lenny's Law into existence, and that's not what we're asking you to do. We're not asking you for any additional municipal traffic enforcement. We are not asking for local town funding or tax dollars. All we're asking for is an official town council resolution endorsing the concept of Lenny's Law. Why does this matter? It matters because we're trying to build a coalition here in Western North Carolina. Woodfin was the first municipality to sign on, and Asheville followed soon after with a unanimous vote of yes. So adding Weaverville creates a unified Western North Carolina front that we are hoping to take to the General State Assembly soon as we can. Having this framework in place also allows Weaverville to strategically place these safety zones near your own expanding Greenway connections in the future. And hopefully Greenway is coming from Woodfin to Weaverville, so this is a sign that you could put up if there are any dicey or scary connections that bicyclists might have to make to reach the Greenway. So in closing, this is a simple, high-impact step. It costs nothing, but it lays the groundwork to save lives and protect families. It simply asks drivers to observe the posted speed limit and be aware of other people on the road. There is nothing controversial about that. It's a common sense idea that can prevent another local family from enduring what Maddie and Lenny's loved ones went through. So we respectfully ask for your yes vote on the resolution before you tonight. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maddie. Any discussion?
Well, first of all, I want to say that I'm deeply sorry for your loss. I can't imagine the tragic situation in your life and the loss of your fiance, the loss of your friends, and my heart goes out to you and the cycling world for the loss of these people that were just enjoying their day. And I think that's just such a sad event, and my heart goes out to you, and I'm very sorry for your loss. I'm sure that you guys are probably aware that there is already a state law in place called Watch For Me. Are you familiar with that? So it's something very similar to what you're talking about. This is for bicycle safety, ensures that everyone is safe. I have a website here if you want to look at it. Talks about the rules of the road, what the motorists are supposed to do, what the bicyclists are supposed to do. So I think a lot of these things that you're asking for, there's already a law in place, and that's good news. I'll be glad to share this with you so you can look at it. If you want to take my phone, you can go ahead and just get the website, that's fine. But I think it's not the fact that somebody was speeding on 251, it's the fact that there was an impaired driver on 251 where this accident happened. Am I correct in that?
Yeah. In this specific instance, he may have also been speeding, but yes, he was under the influence of meth and marijuana.
And he crossed left of center.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah, so one detail I didn't mention is they were riding on the white line on the right side of the road, and
Mhm.
the dump truck entirely across.
mhm.
When he was hit on his right side, that's how horrible he was.
Wow. Wow.
I will say, they didn't get the black box data on the speeds, we don't know for sure, according to the driver, he was below the speed limit at that part of the road at that time was 55,
I see.
now it's 40,
Mhm.
so.
So, yeah, with this Watch For Me law that's already in place, it's already been endorsed by North Carolina Department of Public Safety, the North Carolina Highway Patrol, and DOT. So there's already a law in place that's talking a lot of the things that you're asking for. It doesn't say put a sign for a bicycle zone, but just about everything else that you talked about is already in this law that's already been passed.
I think it would be great, though, to have the fine, so, I mean, we mentioned the impairment piece.
Mhm.
And, you know, the reason I want the drug test required is the fear that you go to jail.
Mhm.
Data shows that matters.
Right.
The fear of having a higher fine if you're speeding, that matters. So that's what we're asking for, and we know we can't increase the fine here tonight. but
Right.
We want to take that to
And-
state.
So
It's just,
with,
I'm sorry, just as a point of information, I don't think it's a law.
Yeah.
It's a program,
okay,
it's supposed to bring awareness to that very problem, and you're right about that. It does not, because there is a constraint on where you can declare, and it is for things, and Adam mentioned this earlier, like construction zones and school zones. You can't do a lot else, and I've had other clients ask, can we not have a speed zone here? And
Right.
DOT will tell you, if
That's
it's in on the
right.
books, you can't do it.
that's
So
right.
that's what Lenny's Law would do, is to make it possible to have
Mhm.
DOT declare, well, through this area, so you got a windy, dangerous road like that, fines are gonna be higher. And
Mhm.
so it is, you're absolutely right that it's aimed in that direction.
Right.
But
And so what I might suggest is that you guys tag on to this, because it may be easier since this has already been approved by some of the people that you're needing approval from. If you could tag on to this, that might give you a little bit more impotence to accomplish what you're wanting to accomplish. So that's one thing. The other thing, and Mr. Shea, if you don't mind coming to the podium, please. I would also advocate for pushing for more strictness, I guess, on testing for impairment at accident scenes. If there's a death or serious injury, but that would have to go through the Alcohol Board of North Carolina, and they are already very, very strict about things. I know that there is some trials of some mouth swabs in Tennessee and Kentucky to test for impairment. That is not here in North Carolina now. The gold standard, I'm a nurse, and I know the gold standard for determining impairment is with a blood draw, and I don't think that North Carolina is going to want to move from a cheek swab to the gold standard, which is a blood draw. So I don't think that they will adopt that, but.
So we did do a blood draw on the driver. The
Mhm.
problem was, for whatever reason, he was discharged from the hospital. The trooper arrived at the hospital 1 minute after he was discharged. I'm not kidding.
Mhm.
And so then it led to this 2-hour gap. in
Right.
blood draw.
Well, EMS can also do a blood draw, so it's not just at the hospital. EMS can also do those same blood draws. But Mr. Shea, I'd like to ask you about impaired drivers. We had this discussion just a minute ago about how often they are impaired before something happens.
Roughly 80 times is the number from NHTSA. In my opinion, it's probably a little bit higher and stuff now because, and again, I'm very sorry for your loss. It's a terrible, terrible story. Whenever I first started law enforcement 15 years ago, a gram of meth was around $100 to $120 per gram, about the size of your thumbnail. That meth, the same quantity, is $20 or $30 now. It is all that we see, that and fentanyl on these streets now, and it is absolutely everywhere. From a law enforcement standpoint, we're kind of in a tough spot with what the state requires. Whenever an officer is sent to a wreck where there's serious injury, death, whatever, or suspicion of impairment, we're trained, and our officers are trained, to look for specific clues and indicators of impairment. And then we do testing, it's called standardized field sobriety testing, and then we have advanced roadside impairment detection testing that we can put those people through on the side of the road. If we do all that, get our evidence that we need to make a good arrest decision and do that arrest, we'll take that person in and ask for a consensual blood draw or get a blood search warrant if we need to. Regardless of what happens though, with the blood draw, that person will be released after, if they have any type of a bond, still with their active driver's license. Because until we get those results back from the state of North Carolina, that person's gonna be out driving, doing the same exact thing that they were before. So there's a lot of legal constraints that it puts us into, where we're following the law the way that we should, but North Carolina is very, very particular as far as the process and how we do those things.
So does that blood get tested at the state crime lab? Okay, so that's another issue because there is such a backlog. I have a lot of state trooper friends, and I've had discussions with them about Lenny's Law and about exactly what you're talking about, and they referred me to Watch For Me. So that's, you know, I think combining those might be a good avenue for you. I know that here in Weaverville, and Chief Oberlin, if you want to speak on this as well, we only have one road in our city limits here, on our town limits, that is over 35 miles an hour, and that's Reams Creek Road. I would not want to see that designated as a safe bike zone because there's not a shoulder on Reeves Creek Road. And I would really hate to see a bicyclist get a false sense of security saying, oh, this is a bike safe zone, when there's no shoulder for them to get on. And even though there's signage and all those things, sometimes people don't pay attention to the signs. And so I'm just concerned about putting something on Reeves Creek. I know that Chief Oberlin spoke about folks parking at one of the shopping centers here and running out Monticello Road to get down to 251. Chief Oberlin, what is your thoughts of signage and things for Lenny's Law?
Sure. On behalf of the police department, I just want to be clear that we support all efforts to try to get anything to be safer.
Agreed.
To encourage any kind of pedestrian and bike safety and things along the way. What she's talking about really is that it's our experience that the bicyclists gather at Tri-City Plaza. Are you bicyclists yourself? They gather up the way and then ride kind of a spotty in and out of Weaverville down Monticello Road, but most of that is 35 miles an hour with no shoulder. I'm not opposed to signage. That's what you're asking for. I think that signage is easy, right? That's a very low place to meet, right? And an effort, for sure, right? I don't want to put false hopes on its ability to gain traction. And what we would be waiting for as far as the police department goes, and I haven't had a lot of time to study it, so I'm rather impromptu here, sorry, is that without it getting actual legislative support, there isn't much more that we can do, you know, other than continue to monitor those areas and catch speeders and whatnot. So the signs will encourage them to slow down, but it wouldn't do anything right now to change it. And Reems Creek, again, is very much in and out of our jurisdiction as far as very spotty coverage. Most of that would have to be enforced, just to be, so that you know what we're getting into, most of that would have to be enforced by Highway Patrol. Since the Sheriff's Office currently doesn't do traffic enforcement.
I was going to make a comment. I'm a greater than 20-year dedicated cyclist. I'm also a victim of attempted murder by rageful drivers who do not believe cyclists have a right to be on a public thoroughfare. So, you know, I would encourage the energy that all of you have assembled, which I think is so great, to start talking about Lenny's Trail versus Lenny's Law. And the best place I've found to cycle that is really safe is Highway 19 between the freeway and Burnsville. 4 lanes, massive shoulders, low traffic. You know, I gave up cycling in town because I knew I was going to lose. I switched to a totally dedicated fenced-off trail. And the only hazard that I was aware of, because I would start cycling at 5:30 in the morning, was deer jumping across the trail. But other than that, I didn't have to worry about rageful drivers, impaired drivers, crowded drivers, or that sort of thing. And, you know, the practical, Adam, no offense, but the practical reality we have here is, you know, we have tobacco roads and pig trails that are not going to get any wider. And so, you know, trying to, enforce, another layer of carefulness, I think is going to be hard. I would love to see a Lenny's Trail on Highway 19 because I think it's a beautiful ride.
I'd like to make 2 points, and we're straying a little bit from the intention of this resolution, but I'd encourage you to look at the data from DOT, NISTA, and I don't have a fully formed opinion on it, but there is data out there that suggests narrower roads are safer because cars do not feel, they don't feel empowered to drive faster. Because when there's a shoulder, they can get away with driving faster. There's data about that. Number 2, it is so tragic that we're out here trying to spend all this money to create all these trails to separate us, and that's good. I'm for that. But also, you know, as a country, we would not have to spend billions of dollars in infrastructure if everyone respected each other on the roads, was not racial, if everyone recognized the danger of being on drugs while driving. And again, I know that's not something we're going to solve here, but I just encourage you to think about that. And that's the mindset I have, and I have a progress over perfection mindset, and I think this gets us progress, and that's what I'm asking.
So, you know, our oldest son lives in Berlin, Germany, which is the biggest biking town. 40% of workers ride bikes to work every day. You know, there's train lanes, car lanes, bike lanes, pedestrian lanes on every street. We're just not going to be able to duplicate, you know, that level of safety is my only fear. And, you know, I think, Manny, to your point, you know, line of sight, if I've got a linear view, you know, even half a mile ahead of me, with my mirror on my helmet, I know what's going on around me. We're trying to do our curves here, you know, on these beautiful, roads that we dearly love. You never know what's coming around, including a bear. So, you know, it's just unpredictable.
And I'm in support. I'm very much in support of it, and it's a resolution, and you know, you're going to need the state legislatures.
Right.
And you know, we all have stories, and I'm sorry for your loss. And to Phil's point, I too biked with my family, and started in '90 and stopped because somebody pulled a shotgun on my wife. Nobody died, but I started biking with a gun, and I'm like, that's stupid. So yes, we would bike down Monticello and then north to Marshall, and I had my daughter, who was 2, on the back of my son, who was 7, and you've probably heard all this. And back then, everybody in Asheville thought it was Bike Town USA, and it's not. I lived in Seattle, and you could bike from Snoqualmie Falls to downtown Seattle on a dedicated bike lane. I don't bike anymore at all. I gave up. I'm not going to mountain bike because I probably just killed myself. So I'm not telling you to quit biking. I was in a Belshare road race near Cane Creek and watched a young man die. He was hit during the race by a dump truck, and I was in that race because the dump truck didn't care, didn't follow the rules, could have been on drugs. So terribly apathetic and feel horrible for you. I don't know what that pain would be like. And I wish you well. You know, we've supported weaker resolutions that mean nothing. So I think you'll probably get a unanimous vote. I would be shocked if you didn't. But you got a long, you're not going to stop people from driving on drugs, crossing the center line, pointing guns at people. And it's terrible, but I'm a pragmatist, and that's why I stopped biking. And I hated it. I mean, I owned 6 bikes and, 20 helmets, and I loved biking and just said, I'm done. I want to live. I got 2 kids. So I'm tragic, very sorry, but wish you the greatest of luck with our state legislature and see where that takes you.
So I have one comment and then one question for Adam. I have 2 actually support this. I just want to also point out the fact, and legally speaking, this law, Lenny's law, does not make anything additional illegal. Doesn't change what's legal or illegal. I think that's very important for the council to actually remember here. It just makes the penalties stricter or more robust. And that is not a big ask, especially in these situations. Adam, my question though is, do you know, and this may just be not fully fleshed out yet, but who would be in charge of determining where those zones are?
That's a very interesting question. I imagine it would be the local MPO. They are the ones who put up and upgraded 96 signs along Riverside Drive after we spoke to them back in October of last year. We're very grateful for that. So I would imagine that local cyclists clubs would approach the MPO and petition for a bicycle safety zone to be created in that certain stretch of road. They would bring data based on usage and based on accidents that have occurred on that road. And again, these are not going to be everywhere. 251 is a prime example. Riverside Drive would be designated as a bicycle safety zone. It would not necessarily be designated a safe bicycle zone, so that's a big difference. It doesn't necessarily mean it's safe or guarantee that it is. It's just called a bicycle safety zone, just like a school zone. And I just want to, I guess, close our piece with this story that I think is relevant. On July 1st of this year, my wife and I were driving back from Lenny's memorial ride on Riverside Drive. We had just finished the ride. There were about 160 people there. And we got in our car and we were just driving home, enjoying a beautiful scenic drive home. You know, it's a gorgeous road, right? And if you've ever ridden a bike, it's an amazing place to ride a bike. As we were driving home, my wife suddenly gasped as a car came around a corner, I'm not kidding you, at like 70 miles an hour and started swerving over the center line. Luckily, I swerved as far as I could to the right, and we avoid getting killed coming back from Lenny's ride. So that's the beauty of this idea. It's not just about bicyclist safety. It's about just asking people to go the speed limit. The speed limit is 40 miles an hour, so if it's designated as a bicycle safety zone, you'll get an extra ding if you get a speeding ticket in that zone. So it doesn't, like you said, Peter, it doesn't change anything. It's just like a school zone. You can still speed in that zone if you want to, and if you get caught, you're going to get a fine of an extra $50 or $100. And if you're a CDL, maybe more. If you're a CDL driver, then there would be much more severe penalties. Dump trucks should not be going 60 miles an hour down Riverside Drive. And if they have an incentive not to, if there's a punishment of an increased fine for doing so, maybe they'll think twice, and they won't. So that's the main idea. It's just about slowing people down and making them aware of the other human beings who are using the road as well.
Also, in my discussion with the Highway Patrol, they said that they do not have the authority to increase fines for speeding in certain areas right now.
Oh, yeah,
so right
absolutely.
now. But it could be an ordinance that's in a town, like we could say in Weaverville, in the town of Weaverville, but it would not be anything that's on their driver's license points. It would just be a fine that they pay for ordinance violation kind of thing.
Oh.
So.
That's very interesting.
Yes, so there's a lot of things that you guys need to be aware of when you're going to try to present this to state legislature. I recommend that you talk to the Department of Public Safety, you talk to the Highway Patrol, you talk to the, that website that I gave you.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of things that you can do to tag on with this, but there's a lot of things that you're asking, you know, like for more penalties outside of town limits. That's illegal right now.
We're not asking for that.
No,
We're-
I mean, on the speeding fines, you are.
No, not today. Today, we're
Okay.
just asking for a resolution to endorse our idea.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in the future, if we do get this passed at the state level, I know that's a long shot, but if we do, then Weaverville could put up a bicycle safety zone in a place that's appropriate. And it doesn't change anything other than hopefully raise awareness and keep people going the speed limit. And if you're open to it, Jennifer, maybe we can talk
I love it.
about your ideas because they are really appreciated. So thank you.
I think this is an opportunity to create a unified, or not organization, but to get local municipalities on the same page with this. And the more local municipalities that we get, the more power they will have when they go in front of other organizations that can actually act on this thing, because we're really kind of handcuffed. So, you know, from my standpoint, I think that's something that this council should really consider. That asks to see if anybody would like to make a motion for a resolution to do that.
I'll make the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
I think I need to read it, don't I?
You
No.
can-
Okay. All right, very good. Aye.
Aye. No. Okay. So we have one no and the rest aye, so the motion passes.
Thank you for
Wonderful.
coming and speaking.
Thank you all so much. It means a lot. We'll be in touch.
Well, I can see you're ahead of the game.
Did I jump again?
Well, Mr. Eller, we'll turn the floor over to you if you're ready.
Very good. In 2014, the French Broad River Organization began evaluating a method to connect the planned Beaver Dam Greenway in Woodfin and the planned Ream Street Greenway in Weaverville. Even though these two greenways are in close proximity, there are some topographical challenges between the two, as well as some very busy roads. In that process, a project team, including representatives from both towns as well as the county and NCDOT Division 13, came up with what is the guts of this study. And what the study produced was a way to connect not necessarily these two greenways directly, but our two communities directly, and I'll go into some detail on that. The first alternative follows I-26 entirely from the Greenway in Woodfin and past the Greenway in Weaverville and up to the boulevard. Even though it bypasses the Greenway, if we do follow the interstate, especially in our jurisdiction, there's no good way to get down there unless we're handing out parachutes. So we decided to extend that up to the boulevard. Alternative B follows a combination of Merriman Avenue and Weaverville Highway the whole way as it changes names right at the border of our two jurisdictions. There are some spatial constraints that Woodfin has that we don't necessarily have. But nonetheless, this is an option moving forward. And then lastly, alternative C is a combination of the two, where the proposed path would follow the interstate through the town of Woodfin, hop off at the New Stock interchange, and then on to Weaverville Highway here in town. That's what the study came up with. This planning now allows both towns to position themselves for future state funding through the STIP program and participate in these roadway projects in the early stages. While the construction of this pathway is likely a little ways out, it does lay the groundwork for a future multi-use path between our two communities. The action that is being requested tonight is a resolution of support of this study, which again does not necessarily pick an alternative,
but does put us in the pipeline for some of that state funding. That being said, I'm happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
I'll make the motion to adopt the feasibility study.
We have a motion to adopt the feasibility study. All in favor? Say
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. I believe, sir, you're still on?
I'm still here.
Okay.
On to a proposed zoning map amendment for 21 Parker Cove Road. Following on the motion made by Councilmember Andrews, he and I were speaking a little bit earlier this evening because he was on the planning board at the time, and I just mentioned to him in passing that we've built up 10 conditional districts. We've never attempted to take one down. So let's see what happens. In February 25, Town Council, as it was constituted at that time, adopted the conditional district that now governs the property in question. I apologize for the typo on your cover page, but it suggests that this was for the development of 45 dwelling units. That's actually where that proposal began, and over time, that got whittled down to 27. The new property owners for 21 Parker Cove are now seeking the elimination of the conditional district, which governs the property, and a zoning map amendment from that district back to the traditional R1 zoning.
Can I interrupt you?
Yes, sir.
What would the R1 zoning push out to? How many houses?
How many units?
How many units?
Let me see if I can stick the landing on this one. R1 zoning has a 10,000 square foot minimum lot area, which is a little less than a quarter of an acre. So we have a theoretical maximum of 4 units per acre spread across 9 acres and change. However, there is some significant acreage on this property in the former project that is within the floodplain. It doesn't mean you can't build houses in the floodplain. It means you have to build it up out of the floodplain.
But you count it in the aggregate.
If you're asking me to give a theoretical maximum.
36.
That's a fair estimate, and I would be shocked if they were to ever get anywhere near that number based upon the totality of the circumstances.
Do we know why they want to swap it?
The proposal that I entertained upon our initial meeting that day is they wanted to subdivide the property one time for one home. At which point I informed them that due to the conditional district, they could not do anything that was not already enumerated on that site-specific development plan. We had some conversations about, and I understand what you're trying to do today, but let's think toward tomorrow or next month or next year, and they still came back a couple days later and suggested that they would like to go with R1.
Yeah, I've walked that property, and there is it's almost like a natural spring that goes through the property that comes out into Greens Creek. And so there is a portion of that, like, I guess backs up to Maple Trace.
Yes.
There that would be concerning about trying to build there, but I was against this being adopted when I was on the planning board, so I voted no on that, so I would love to see this taken off.
And
I'd like to go back to R1 and
Make a
take it off
motion.
of it. I'll make a motion that we get rid of this conditional zoning on this piece of property.
Well, it's
Cut my speech in half, and that tickles me to death.
So we have this motion on the floor. Can you
Wait a
restate?
minute, just a minute.
I was gonna say, are we voting to kick it somewhere
It's
first?
not, it's to,
Yeah.
this is to study the
Yeah,
issue.
that's what I thought.
This is going to the.
You got excited like I normally do. It's just to let me.
You
This
do
is
have
to
a-
formally send the zoning map amendment to the planning board for their review and
You've
recommendation.
got a legislative prerogative whether you wanted to do that or not, and I think you just said, let's seriously consider doing it.
I
That-
did.
that's it.
Okay. So we still have a motion on the floor. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Wait just a
Opposed?
minute. I think there's a question.
Amended motion, are you amending your motion?
Yes.
What was wrong with it? It was.
I will amend it and say, can we send it back to the planning board for study?
Yeah,
Does that make you happy?
that'd be appropriate.
Okay. Now,
We should vote again then.
Okay.
Yes.
All in favor of sending this to the planning board for study?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Very good. All right.
Thank you all for your help. I appreciate that. So,
At 3 in a row, you're up 3 times in a row.
I'll conclude my time with you this evening with hopefully a very simple quarterly department report. You'll find on there that the total number of zoning permits issued for the second quarter of calendar year 26 was 31. We also issued 4 assigned permits during that time. Your planning board activity, you'll find that the zoning map amendment for 5 and unaddressed Reagan Lane went before the planning board on 2 separate occasions. The reason for that is their application was amended after the board provided a negative recommendation on C2, so they got to do that 2 months in a row, and ultimately, as you will recall from last month, neither of those zoning map amendments came to fruition. We also reviewed a zoning text amendment related to mobile food vendors. We're keeping that on ice to sort of package with other text amendments that all can be done at the same time. And then lastly, in April, the Board of Adjustment had a training exercise with town staff. And before I conclude, I would like to take this opportunity. There's been a lot of conversation about some of the overlapping governmental authorities as it relates to land development ordinances, and everyone does everything differently, but I just wanted to, again, take this opportunity to remind us that the county provides some development regulations within our jurisdiction, and those include administering the state building code through their permits and inspections. We also have some floodplain, some stormwater that is actively in transition, as well as some erosion control depending on the size of the property and the size of disturbance. That's all I have for you this evening, unless anyone has any questions.
Thank you.
no
Thank you.
questions. Thank you, Mr. Waller. Mr. DeSerio.
Mayor, Town Council, thanks for having me. Let me go through my quarterly report here. I'm gonna talk on a few of these items that you have in front of you, and then I'm gonna spend a few minutes just kind of speaking from the heart regarding the community center and what I've been feeling about it for this last year. So we can go through the private rentals here first, and you see it's broken down there between resident and non-resident. So our fourth quarter rental revenue was $11,536. So if you look below there, our annual budget expectations for revenue was $45,000, and for the year we did $45,891. So we're pretty close. It was great. Next, community center facility updates. So we had the floors deep cleaned there, and also the chairs deep cleaned. So I'm not aware that that was done since we started. So that was needed, it was necessary, and I feel like it made a big difference on the floors and the chairs, especially for people that were renting the facility. So we're also continuing to have our doors adjusted and looked at to make sure they lock properly. Those can be really expensive to repair, so we're trying to stay on top of those things and be proactive with any minor repairs that we can do to make sure we avoid any major repairs. Kitchen sink was also repaired as well in our kitchen. So next, I always like to brag on the community programs that we have and the many community instructors and volunteers that run them and make them happen. If you go one more page to our new community programs updates, you can kind of see some of the things that happened. I'd like to highlight just a few things that happened over this last quarter. So these are all instructors that are giving of their time, that are not asking for any kind of fee at all. So they're donating their time, they're donating their expertise, and they're always bringing something to the community center that not only fosters community, but it also is inclusive. So stuff like Pilates and prayer, where you have exercise, but you also have meditative practices. You have not only a yoga class, but people that are going to lunch and grabbing lunch together right after their yoga class. You have a retirement workshop that brings clarity, that helps people that are in that phase of life, knowing what to do. And all these are free. Mother's Day Latin Social, First Chirps, Music Together. So that's music and sounds for little ones. So these are just some of the taste of what happened this last quarter of people giving their time and their effort. We go to the next one, community programs and highlights. I wanted to highlight one of the instructors that we had this time. So David Ezra, he teaches Qigong. So you can look at him and know that he teaches Qigong. So he's been teaching Qigong for over 30 years and meditation for over 30 years. So this is something that he brings so much expertise, so much time, so much life, and this is something that not only expands the people that he works with, but it expands the community center. So I feel like we're really lucky to have him. He's been teaching us, or has been teaching there for over 3 years. Next, I want to give a shout out to our Maggie Crisp. This is not on there. Maggie Crisp is one of the instructors that is going to be moving on from the community center. She's been there 2 years. She's taught the HIT class there, which is, if I remember right, it's, gosh, what is it? Yes, high intensity interval training. It's harder to say, even harder to do. So it's a great class that she's been there. She's, again, one of those people that is expert in what they do, but they're giving of their time back to the community center. So she's been there for 2 years and now going on to get her doctorate and studying counseling in Charlotte, and she'll be replaced with someone that's wonderful and great, but she'll be missed. So if you look past, you can see further, there's community events, town events, but I just want to talk just for a few minutes on community and what it means to me, and then I'll let the next person go. So for me, the community center, I feel like, is a bridge. I feel like it's a bridge for people that they're where they're at in their life to something bigger than themselves. We all know that isolation, loneliness, apathy, all those things can be a real killer. We know that at certain times in our lives, or certain seasons of our lives, we're in that situation more. So I feel like the community center is meeting a need of those people that are in this season of life where they would be the most lonely, where they would be the most isolated. So instead of letting them be there, it offers an opportunity for them to connect with other people. It offers an opportunity for them to get out of their house, invite other people into their circle, make friends, have somebody who gives them a call or checks on them. And that's something that's really powerful, and it's happening just down the road. And I know you guys know this, but I like to brag about it every once in a while. So if you look at the community center, you can see that it obviously emits life. There's movement classes, art, theater, storytelling, music, groups, workshops, education, and all different kinds of private events. So the champions that do these are not just about teaching or showing up and instructing somebody in the class. Each one of those classes have become their own community and their own pocket, their own group. So those people are friends that do life together outside of that, and that's really powerful. So, and it's because of this amazing model that we were gifted through the Weaverville Center for Creative and Healthy Living that has removed barriers for people. So people no longer have to pay a gym membership to come to get a yoga. They no longer have to pay a membership to come, take a class or take a group or find out something about the finances that they didn't know. They're able to do that because of the town's generosity and because of the instructor's generosity. So thinking about this as the fourth quarter report and over the year, I asked myself, what are some goals for the community center? Well, we want to continue to be a steward of the town's finances. We want to continue to be a supportive host for our volunteer instructors. But we also want to we also want to begin to think about ways that we can expand the spirit of community by not only providing a place for connection at the community center, but also reaching out to folks who are in need and who need basic things in our community. So I feel like, in closing, I'm thankful to be a part of what's happening there. I'm thankful to see in just the short time that I'm there, other instructors being invited, people taking chances and teaching a class and then finding out they're wonderful at something. So seeing real life happen, I'm happy to be a part of that. And also, I feel like it really calls us to say, what more can we do with this community center, and how can we expand it? How can we reach our neighbors in our community that are still in need? So, thank you guys very much.
Thank you. And I
Thank you.
appreciate your leadership and all the things that you bring to that community center. I know that you are very creative in getting a diverse group of things in there, and that speaks well to your leadership. My question for you is, are we experiencing any challenges with parking?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's true, and that's a great point. So we are experiencing that because it's so popular. So I have a couple different thoughts about that, and actually I won't share them here, but I'd love to talk to you directly about that.
I'll come see you.
Yes, and we can talk about maybe some out-of-the-box
Great.
ideas.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
so
you,
much.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Doge?
Good evening, Mayor and Town Council. We have fourth quarter report for you tonight, the final report of FY '26. The year has closed out. Auditors are here next week, August 3rd to the 7th. They'll be set up for a week in the conference room to conduct their testing and their work. And they'll report to you later this year on their findings with positive or with concrete year-end numbers. But tonight, I wanted to give you an estimate of where it looks like we're gonna finish out the year. So on page 65 at the top, those are our major sources of revenue. You've got the budget column where I think we're gonna end. Some of these will change for sure, like sales tax, there's a 2 to 3 month lag between when we earn it and when we receive it. So that's likely to change. And then up the 2 columns of a variance, dollar and percentage, and then the increase or decrease over the prior year. So ad valorem taxes is not likely to change. You'll see we came in about 77,000 higher than budget, and 12.5% higher than the previous year. DMV tax and utility, a little bit higher than budget, and again, a little higher than the previous year. Sales tax, we've been keeping a close eye on this all year. This includes 2 months of estimates, so I'm hopeful it'll change. Very conservative estimates, so it is likely to get a little bit better than what you see. But if it doesn't, we'll end the year about 99,000 below budget, 4.6%, but still at 1% higher than the previous year, which is better than some people around us have done, because we've heard of some negative year-over-year numbers from those around us, and we've at least stayed positive year-over-year.
So quick question, what's going on economically in the town that would cause a, almost $100,000 step change in sales tax?
It's not, it's just below budget. We base our
Oh, okay.
estimates, yeah.
Got it.
You base it on
That's a budget
the
number.
previous year or what
We
the
look at
state projects?
growth. The league gives us a good number, what they project the increase will be, and then we look at our growth and where we've been over the past years, and
Do you actually know the formula the state uses to kick back sales tax to towns?
we've looked at that. We brought that to you
Yes.
a month or 2 ago.
Yeah, I mean,
So I can't tell you off the top of my head.
No, I don't expect you to, but I mean, it's not, and maybe I was missed at the meeting or I was asleep, it's not an easy formula, correct?
So, it's my understanding that the sales tax money comes from the state back to the county, and then the county determines how to disperse that.
distribute it.
So it's not necessarily how much sales tax was
Correct.
generated by town businesses.
Right.
So-
Correct, and Asheville gets a disproportionately less amount. I mean, it's used for services, so and Asheville's always complained about it because they collect a lot of sales tax from people coming to Asheville and shopping, and somebody in Rutherfordton doesn't, so I've never bothered to waste my time to get my head around the formula.
Yeah.
But it's
And
not, it's
the county
somewhat out of her
controls-
control is my point.
Correct.
And the county can choose to distribute it back per capita or based on ad valorem tax.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're stuck with what the state gives that. Okay.
But hopefully that number will come up a little bit. Good news is we have enough positive variance in other revenue lines to cover that if it does stay negative. Buncombe County Fire Tax next, that came in a little bit over budget, which was good. ABC Store almost reached their budget number. As you all know, they're building an extension or they're expanding, so we're not getting the profits that we normally get. That's all going into their expansion. Interest income rates still haven't dropped the way they've been predicted to drop, so once again, we're over budget on our interest income, which is good, almost $91,000. We are about 19% below where we were last year, just because the rates have dropped a little bit, just not as much as they predicted. Water revenue, we're really close, 0.6% within budget there, and that's likely to change with the audit when we bill for what's been used but not, or when we record the revenue for what's been used but not billed. And then system development fees, that shouldn't change, and you'll see we came in 105 over budget there, 12% over last year. So overall, we've got a almost $239,000 positive variance with our revenues. All of our expenditures, of course, we've kept them under budget, so we'll have positive variance, positive funds going back to all the fund balances across the funds. So just to give you some other highlights, we spent approximately $869,000 on capital items. Most of these are vehicles, equipment. The single biggest one was the leaf vacuum at $130,000. That last bullet there should actually be to the left, not under the 869, obviously, because we spent $914,000 on the water line replacement project near Stony Knob. That money's been reappropriated for the past, I think, 3 years. We began the project in FY24. Finally finishing that up. That's almost $1 million project. Paving program went well this year. We spent $590,000. We've got $302,000 left, which we'll be asking you to reappropriate into the current year budget at the next meeting. PAL bill funds, we received $168,000. That's been staying steady or climbing a little bit each year. A few other ones we don't usually talk about. Cell tower revenue was $22,000. As you just heard, the community center revenue was $45,000, almost $46,000. Parking fees totaled $5,100. So the town is not getting rich off of parking tickets. Grant funds received, we've really done, in my opinion, a good job with grants this year. Besides the big ones that you know about for the water, the millions of dollars for the water expansion, you'll see a long list here of smaller ones that we've been able to secure. Everything you see here has been received and spent except for the $180,000 for the Nature Park Stormwater project. That project is just getting started. And then the very last one there, that $135,000 from the Office of State Budget and Management, that OSBM. We applied for that for the single one project that was not covered under FEMA, storm damage. And that was the raw water intake, the damage, remember it filled with water and sludge and mud. And FEMA did not cover that because it was in a flood zone. They don't cover those things. So that cost us exactly $135,000, or that's exactly what FEMA didn't cover. So we applied for this other grant, and they did cover that amount. So besides that, just some other highlights in the finance department. We've had a lot of upgrades this year. This has been a year for us. We upgraded our accounting system, as you know. That was 2 years in the making. That happened this past fall. Got the conversion in. Some things that's allowed us to do, like the mobile work orders, which I believe you heard about from the Public Works Director. Public Works workers now have iPads in the field, so we can send work orders from our office here to them in the field. They can take care of it. They used to have to go back to the Public Works building, get it off the fax machine, go back out to do it. So a lot of efficiency and time saved there. The employee self-service portal, as you know, we no longer print and distribute pay stubs. It's up to the employee now to log in, retrieve their pay stub. They can also look at their leave balances and things like that. So again, saving paper and more efficient. And then this last one is a work in process right now. If you ask any department head, they're pulling their hair out with the, it's called Time Clock Plus. We're integrating electric time sheets into our payroll system. So we're no longer filling out paper leave forms, and we're not filling out time sheets at the end of the pay period. It's captured electronically each day, integrates with our payroll system, so when we get it all figured out, it's gonna be great. And then the last thing, we upgraded our credit card. We went with a new bank that offered more features, easier to do things on their website. Also came with Expensify. They pair with Expensify, so employees can use their phone to take pictures of receipts, upload it, again, saving on scanning, filling out paperwork and all that, and submitting it. So it's been a good year for us. I'm very proud of my staff. They worked really, really hard. We all know that anything we can't figure out, they'll figure out, and then we all go see them to teach the rest of us how to do it. After that, I've got in your packet, you'll see the grant, the capital and grant project ordinances, which I'm required to report to you each quarter. The first one is the big one, the plant expansion. You'll see not a whole lot happened in FY26, $60,000 spent on engineering fees. I think the holdup was with NCDEQ there. The next one is the resiliency project. We have had a lot of progress there. Almost $1.2 million spent on that project, and it is nearing completion. And those are the generators and the conversion at the plant. The next one is the new one that we just set up a couple of months ago. This is for the USACE, the Army Corps of Engineer, that $5 million grant where our portion is going to be 1.3. We sent them $100,000 last year to get started on the engineering for that, and we've budgeted $400,000 more in this current year. So you'll see this going forward at all of my quarterly reports. And then finally, Helene, disaster, and FEMA, the last 2 pages in your packet. As you heard earlier, we've got our, what's it called, a transition meeting on Thursday. We're very excited about. We can finally maybe close this out and move on. But the second to last page shows you, if you look at the cumulative total column, you'll see all of our expenses have totaled $2.2 million. Everything we paid for that was disaster related, lien related, went into this fund. Does not include things like salaries and equipment use and things that were already in our normal budget. And then on the very last page is a report I downloaded from FEMA. This shows you all of our projects. They've all been obligated. We've received all of the money except for that very last one, the management costs, that $131,000.9. That is pending. We expect to receive that very soon, and that'll bring our total up to $2.7 million in funds received. And from the previous page, you saw that there were about $2.2 million in expenses, so that we are going to have a positive variance there again that will come back to us into our fund balance.
And no, we don't have to go back to FEMA, Phil.
Right.
I know you're gonna ask that. Please keep it. Am I correct?
Yes, yes. Because a lot of the excess is the salaries.
Of course.
Any piece of equipment we used, we captured how many hours we used that chainsaw, how many hours we used the truck. That graph, the
knuckle boom truck.
The knuckle boom truck came in, yeah, as you know, very, very handy. Great timing on that. But yeah, we claimed all the hours, equipment hours, man hours, management costs, all of that.
Thank you
Great.
so much.
Yes,
I hope
thank
this
you.
Great job.
I hope this council realizes how fortunate we are to have you as our finance director, because you have done an amazing job. Thank you.
Hey, can we all get credit cards, by the way?
Is that the 1-2 punch here?
Any other questions I can answer? All right, thank you.
You can get an electronic time card, though.
Mayor and council, if I could add just to that on the FEMA reimbursement piece, one of the ways we were able to get some of that money, especially on the salary piece, is that we already had to have policies in place. You couldn't, when FEMA showed up, you couldn't just tell them, well, this is the way we were gonna pay our employees moving forward. When I came here and met with Tanya and a previous manager, that's what we looked at on for emergency disaster declaration. What policies do we currently have in place to be able to have that funding? That came from responses down east and going back and looking at what funding is eligible. So that was some of the things that we did prior to the storm, on being able to put some of those policies in place, which you sign off on when those policies come before you. So that was one of the benefits in there, that as we see that positive variance, that we were able to have that and present that information to FEMA on the day they hit the ground. So,
Very good.
Thank you.
Great job, everybody. It's really good. Are there any other brief updates that the council might have on projects that they're working on?
Sure.
Brief.
Brief, okay. I'm on the Patriotic Committee. We had a great July 4th event, and we were able to stick a little patriotism into the music venue. So we had about 20 kids join us and lead the Pledge of Allegiance, and we, had some patriotic songs there. I think that's the first time in several years that we've had any patriotism in the July 4th event, which was unfortunate, but we have changed that. I will be speaking at the public hearing on behalf of Advent Health on August 19th. They have been approved for 93 beds. This is for an additional 92 beds for the certificate of need that's out there, and hopefully that they will be awarded that additional 92 beds. They have started construction. They still are on target to open the physician practices fourth quarter next year, and they are also planning the hospital to open a year later, fourth quarter of 28. So that's still on task for that. Their biggest challenge right now is workforce development. So they are working with community colleges, area universities, and even going into the school system to try to advocate some of the students to pursue health careers. We didn't have a Land to Sky meeting this month, so I have nothing on there. I did attend the fire department training Saturday. They did their ropes training and their rappel training off of the ladder truck down at Lake Louise. It was quite fascinating, and I appreciate Chief Canavax for helping make that happen. But y'all should go watch them. It's very impressive. I'm also on the County Audit Committee. This committee supports the county commissioners and monitors things like financial reporting, internal controls, and risk management things. And if there are any findings on their audit reports, this committee makes sure that those are taken care of.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Very briefly, we have 3 projects in flight from the Economic Development Committee. We've been engaging a number of hotel developers in terms of exploratory conversations. We have kicked off a newcomers club development or organization, which is finally getting its legs, and we are early stage on an entrepreneur economic development roundtable, which I think would fit in great with what Mike described in the community center. So all educational and practical problem solving. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Just briefly, MPO did not meet, so nothing to report there. For MSD, I was able to get web access to their sewer line data. I've integrated that with our water line mapper that's available to the town. I shared that information with Phil. I guess I'll just mention the budget. There was a 7% rate increase, and that's to help fund the capital improvement projects of the MSD, of which they provide excellent service. So it's maintaining that excellent level of service.
Anything else to come before council? See none, we are adjourned.
No closed session?
You can have one. Good answer.